Today on the show, I have the pleasure of speaking with Greg Lyons. Now, Greg started Cityside Capital with his brother Tim in March of 2020. As a licensed capital raiser, Greg partners with established multifamily and self-storage operators throughout the United States to generate passive income for his investors. Greg is no stranger to the real estate space, and before starting Cityside Capital, he was a project manager for a real estate development firm in Boise, Idaho, where he helped develop a 77-unit condominium project. And Greg is a recovering basketball coach after spending 6 years coaching 2 different schools, and now he's fully invested in the real estate world. G'day, Greg. Welcome to the show. How you doing today, mate?
I'm doing great, Reed. Thank you so much for having me on. Well said on the introduction, and happy to be in the real estate game, and really happy to be meeting different people like yourself, because the multifamily space is a very inclusive space, and people just want to see each other do well, and that's been such a welcoming part of this multifamily journey for us.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Well, mate, I want to get into your story. So before we do, can you rewind the clock and tell me how you made your first ever dollar as a kid?
I would have to say lemonade stand. I would say a haphazard arrangement of chairs and tables, maybe a poster, but we were probably charging 5 cents at the time back in the early 80s for some not very good lemonade. So you factor that all in, and I think we may have made $1 back in the early 80s.
That's awesome. And so walk us through your journey into the real estate space. I mentioned earlier you were a basketball coach. So tell us about your upbringing with money and how you got into the entrepreneurial field.
Well, my family grew up in Long Island, New York, and we were middle class all the way. And really, it was the same old story that a lot of entrepreneurs kind of were on. It was go to school, get good grades, go to school, find a job, save, and enjoy retirement at 65. And I was kind of on that path. I was lucky enough to go to the University of Virginia, where I played basketball. And when I say play basketball, that means I had a uniform. I didn't really play that much, but that's okay. University of Virginia was fantastic. But after that, like you said, I went into college basketball coaching. I wanted to be the next John Calipari. I wanted to win a national championship, but it was a tough space, and it was a grind on the family. And we had our first child when I was coaching at American University in DC, and I had to make a life decision, and getting out of coaching was tough, but I haven't looked back one day and said that was a bad decision, because I have 2 wonderful kids and a wonderful wife right now. We live in Charlottesville, Virginia, but I'll always miss the opportunity to win a national championship, but I'll never miss the time I've had with my kids.
That's incredible. And what was that point where you made the decision to leave the coaching, the W-2 space, and try and go down this entrepreneurial path?
Well, it was when we had our first child. My son Connor was born in 2007, and that just changed everything for me. So getting out of coaching, we transitioned to Boise, Idaho, which the natural move is not usually DC to Boise. But, we did it nonetheless. But I was able to join forces with my brother-in-law and my father-in-law. And my father-in-law is probably one of the smartest people I've ever been around, Steve Hosak. And he brought me into his firm, and we worked on a 77-unit condo project. Because in the 2000s, one of the great ways to make money was building condos. And we were smart about it, quote unquote smart about it. We built in 2 phases. We sold out the first phase pretty much, and we started building the second phase of our development right around the end of 2007. So going into 2008, the timing just was not on our side. So I learned a ton about the real estate industry, how to climb out of adversity. And I learned a ton from Steve and Ken Hosak that has kind of really helped me through my real estate journey that I'm on now.
And bridge the gap. What did you do? Did you stay in Boise for a long period of time? Because that was 2007, 2008. What were you doing in the interim? Did you come back to the DC area?
Yeah, 2010, we moved to Charlottesville, Virginia. and set up shop here with 2 young kids. And my wife is a wonderful real estate agent in the Charlottesville area, Lisa Lyons. And I moved into real estate development for a health and fitness company that has 12 locations in 3 states. I was also fortunate enough to get some partners together, and we built 3 trampoline parks in the state of Virginia, Jump Trampoline Park, which is just an outstanding way to not only learn real estate, but learn to start up a business. And so that's some really, really great times building businesses and kind of expanding the gym footprint from a real estate perspective. But, right around the pandemic, probably March of 2020, my brother and I, Tim Lyons, who's a lieutenant in the FDNY, he's a firefighter in New York City, we decided to join forces and say, hey, how do we get into this multifamily world? Because multifamily, as we were studying the real estate industry, multifamily just kept coming up to us as, hey, we really need to get involved in this. So we took the leap and we started getting involved, all right.
That's awesome. That's awesome. And what's your involvement today? I know in the introduction I mentioned you're raising capital. You're a licensed capital raiser. So talk to me a little bit about that and why you decided to go down the path of being a licensed capital raiser and not maybe say an operator.
Yeah, there's so many different ways to make money in real estate, and we decided that just kind of where our lifestyle was with Tim being a firefighter, young kids. I have a couple of kids. Being an operator just wasn't in the cards for us at this point. So as we kept networking in the real estate industry, in the multifamily world, people needed help raising funds. People have wonderful deals. Some people have great deal flow. Other people, do not. But inevitably, people need money to close their deals, to renovate their deals. So we kind of found our niche saying, okay, we get that. How can we be a solution to your capital problem? We went out and joined a broker-dealer, and we're licensed through FINRA and the SEC. And what we do is we just raise money for established operators. And there's some positives and some negatives to becoming a licensed capital raiser. The negative is all the testing and all the fees you have to pay. But really, for our investors, there's an added layer of security, meaning our broker-dealer just doesn't throw out deals in multifamily and self-storage. There's a third-party underwriter. There's a third-party legal check. Our broker-dealer goes to each and every project that we raise money for. It goes through every unit, does a market study. So there's that extra layer of protection and thoughtfulness that we have that we can pass along to our investors that say, hey, we're not just taking the operator's word for it. You're not just taking my word for it, but we have professionals looking at each and every deal that we're raising money for.
That's awesome. And I know the gentleman who you're speaking of, is it Capital One Investments?
Phase One Financial.
Phase One. And Desmond and Dave, great guys.
Absolutely.
I've used them personally on my deals. You've probably been involved somehow through osmosis. So really, really, really awesome stuff. Talk to me in that space of how to get accredited, because I think a lot of people they want to raise money. There's been a bit of turbulence in the SEC world over the last probably 2 or 3 years. What is it that you learned coming out of your training and decided to go down the broker-dealer route?
Well, more than anything, Tim and I at Cityside Capital, we want to sleep well at night.
Right.
And that means getting the licenses and joining a broker-dealer. We felt good about, hey, we're above board on our capital raising duties. And a lot of people raise money for multifamily self-storage deals. And it's actually illegal just to raise money and not participate in the general partnership. So we didn't want to be in a gray area, really. We wanted to be kind of above board with the whole thing. And we knew we weren't operators at this point, and capital raising was our thing. So going down the licensing route, again, with all that third party infrastructure in place, we really thought it was a good place to bring our investors along.
That's awesome. And talk to me about how you built out that investor database, having the FINRA and the SEC securities license behind you and going out and starting Cityside Capital.
The best thing you can do when you're raising capital is tell people what you do. First and foremost, when you're talking real estate, people want to talk to you at a cocktail party, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not selling insurance, you're not, selling encyclopedias, stuff like that. Everyone thinks they're a real estate investor, but most people are the daydream real estate investor. They hit Zillow, they hit Realtor.com, see how much their house is worth, see if they could buy their neighbor's house, and really become moguls. But with taking that extra step and kind of bringing the daydream investor along on a journey of education, that's really what Cityside Capital is all about. And we're saying, hey, real estate syndication is a real thing. It's a tangible thing that you can get involved with. It's not just some secret, society that some people do. It's the education piece to say, hey, this may not be your whole portfolio, but make this real estate syndication a part of your portfolio. Just for diversification outside of the stock market, bonds, or whatever else you invest in.
It's so important to have a diversification. And being myself involved in the space since 2014, I've seen it evolve so much. And really, the impetus of that was the Jobs Act changing in 2012, where people can go out and start soliciting regular investors for investments into securities. And I'm sure probably a lot more about the actual wording and the regulations, but from a high level point of view, the SEC did change their laws for the Jobs Act, and that caused a lot of people to open up their eyes about the possibility of investing directly into these real estate deals that historically weren't available to the average Joe, right? So you're really acting as a conduit between the average Joe investor, the average mom and pop, who wants to invest in real estate like they invest in the stock market, and get the same returns, because historically it's been a bit of an old boys club where these bigger real estate transactions have gone down, where you only got to be on the inside to understand what goes on, right?
Yeah, we've absolutely taken the veil off of it and made it available. There's so many different ways to get into the stock market. There's Robinhood. Mm-hmm. There's all these different apps, Acorns and stuff like that. You could buy fractional shares of this, fractional shares of that. For the most part, people are invested in the stock market, whether it be through their 401k, but that is the traditional way of doing things. Moving a little bit of your portfolio into a real estate syndication gives you the diversification, but it also gives you some upside of not only when these properties sell, you could get maybe a lump sum, but you get cash in your pocket on a monthly or quarterly basis. That's real. You have to recognize gains in the stock market, you have to sell stock, there's capital gains, stuff like that. But to get money into your bank account on a monthly or quarterly basis, you can use that for tuition. You could use that for groceries. You could use that for your vacation fund. But that's real money in your pocket. And I think that is such an important thing that people don't understand, because a lot of times 20 years ago, they know a guy that got into a deal and they got screwed out of this, that. It's not like that anymore. And the real estate syndications are a wonderful part of people's portfolio.
That's exactly right. No. And so talk to me about how you are going about building out the business today. Are you doing any sort of outreach marketing to investors? Are you allowed to do that? Are you doing online Facebook ads? How are you growing your database to educate people about what you do? Because I'm sure people like myself, when I went through a transition out of a W-2 job into this world of capital raising and doing deals, you got to tell them a few times, right? So how have you and your brother gone about re-educating your friends, your family, to increase the awareness of what you're doing in and around education and in and around marketing online?
Yeah, I wouldn't really call us a Cityside Capital a capital raising company. We're more of an education company, and kind of taking people. It's taken some people a year and a half of seeing our stuff and seeing our blog posts to really get comfortable with what we were doing. So it's organic like that. You're getting people on our mailing list, talking to people. But we also started the Passive Income Brothers podcast. We started that in December of last year. And that has been another great way to kind of blast out the message. And we have guests on. One day we'll have a podcast, Investing in the USA, that mirrors the success that you've had, but not just yet. So it's the podcast. It's telling people what you do, and more than anything, we've helped a lot of investors get into, I think, 11 deals, by 10 or 11 deals.
That's great.
People are getting real returns, and that makes raving fans out of our current investors, right?
Yep.
So they tell the next person, hey, you need to talk to Tim and Greg. And a lot of times that's a phone call, introducing people to what we do, putting them on our mailing list, and then it's that education journey that people have to go on to get comfortable with the process.
That's exactly right. And the word of mouth is so important. And I've seen in my portfolio, I've actually just come right now, 6 or 7 years into it, I've started to now cycle deals. And that's so important to show investors, hey, you invested in my deal as an operator, or you invested in Tim, and Rob as an operator. Greg, what has been the impetus of asking people for that capital? It's trust, right? They trust you. They know that you and your brother are trustworthy, and they can then go and invest in you. Like when I asked for capital in the beginning, I remember my first deal I ever lead syndicated, I sold last week, and we made people like a 1.9x on their money. It was fantastic.
I saw that. Congratulations. Congratulations. That is fantastic.
But where I'm going with that is some of the lessons learned along the way, like you're learning as well as you're building out your business, is that trust, right? And trust comes from doing what you say you're going to do, returning people's money, whether it be through pref returns or cash flow. And hopefully you guys are going to get to some big exits, and you can, hey, here's your money back, investor. I was a really good steward of your money. Do you want to roll it over again? Right. And that's the beauty of this business, is that you can keep rolling these 1031 exchanges into bigger and bigger money, making people more and more wealth that the average investor probably just didn't have access to in the beginning. So I think it's an incredibly awesome space to be in. You can obviously tell that I'm jazzed about it, but I'm sure you are as well.
Yeah, it's the know, like, and trust factor.
Right.
And, Tim and I are nothing special. We were not born with a silver spoon in our mouth. And, you could liken us to average Joes, but we're taking action. And that's the biggest part of, people are scared about. They haven't done this before. Mm-hmm. So when they finally have that know, like, and trust, and they take action, get into a deal, kind of see how it's going, that's really where the magic is.
Yep, that's exactly right. What is the plans for 2022 and beyond? Where do you want to grow this business to? Where I know I met your brother in person at the IIREC event 2 weeks ago in Manhattan Beach, Hunter Thompson's event, incredible event, Intelligent Investor Real Estate Conference. Highly recommend people get to the 2023 version. I was meeting your brother, was chatting to him about it. Where do you see yourselves going in, say, 5 years' time?
That's a great question. We are having such a good time talking to people about what we're doing. It's been an incredible journey, but it's only been about 18, 20 months, which we can't believe, because we've kind of cultivated a great investor list. I think people are having good experiences. But for 2022, we're actually doing our first 1031 exchange from someone outside. We're not rolling money over. We're working with a 1031 person right now, and that's been a learning process. But what we're doing is we're leveraging other people's expertise. You mentioned Desmond West and Dave Thompson, leveraging their expertise to find solutions for people is really what we're looking to do in 2022. Finding solutions for people's 1031. Hey, I just had an exit out of another deal I was in. I just got a big bonus at work. We're looking to provide solutions. And I think if we keep stacking more and more solutions together in 22, I think we're going to have some success. Where it goes after that, I don't know. Do we have big dreams? Of course we do. But right now, I think if we just keep helping the individual investor, I think it's just going to start building on itself.
I honestly love that, because I'm very much a person who, I like to look into the future, but I know from my journey, like 10 years ago, I moved to this country as an expat. Didn't even have a plan to invest in real estate. And now I have built a company of over $650 million. And I don't say that to boast. I say it to show an example of someone, exactly what you're saying, Greg, is that you're focusing on the next 2 or 3 steps. You're not focusing too much on the target or the goal. And I think that's really important, because in 10 years' time, you've got to look back on this day and say, I remember being on the podcast with Reed, and we're just talking about trying to help that first person get that 1031 or that bonus into the real estate market and working for them. And eventually looking back in 10 years' time, you're going to be like, wow, we've come a long, long way. And I wanted to pause there on that particular note, because it's so important for people when they're building businesses to really understand what are those next 2 or 3 steps. Yes, you're going to understand where the North Star is, but really being defined on what those next 2 or 3 steps are in the next 6 to 12 months is super critical, and focusing on that, being hyper-focused, and then executing on the next 2 or 3 steps for 2023.
Yeah, Reed, the success you've had is because you took action, right? Decisive action. And action is not this big, massive thing you're doing every day. It's the small steps. Right. It's the baby steps. Yes. And you just keep stacking those. It's, we tell a lot of investors, we talk to people that have a couple bucks, and it's like, hey, you don't have to make $1 million investment, right? We like to tell people, hey, what if you made a $50,000 investment once a year and did that for 5 years? In 5 years' time, you'd have $250,000 invested, and you just keep turning that over for the rest of your life, right? And the cash flow and the exits that you're going to have are going to be fantastic. But you make that commitment to $50,000 a year, right? That's my goal. Right. Do it for 5 years, and then you just let real estate and time do its thing.
That's exactly right. No, I completely agree. And a lot of people don't talk enough about that, exactly what you say there, setting the goals for the investor to think, oh, I can only get involved in real estate if I have $1 million or I have $500,000. That's the beauty of syndication. That's the beauty of what the Jobs Act allowed, what you are doing right now, how you got licensed. It's all in and around the spark from that 2012 change in the legislation to help the average investor invest $25,000 or $50,000 and do it consistently over time. And the compounding effect of that will grow it into a very impressive nest egg. And again, taking the same steps and adages that you go and invest in the stock market, but applying it to real estate investing. So absolutely love that stuff. And I no doubt that you guys are going to be super successful because you are down to earth. I met your brother. We've only just met today, but it seems that you both have a genuine sense of coming to wanting to help people. And that's really, really important first and foremost. I do want to pivot a little bit to talking about, you mentioned in the agreement, if you want to talk about it, cancer survivor. It's a big thing that a lot of people don't talk about. I've talked a lot about on this show, my mum passing away a couple of years ago in 2017, and how that was a really, really grounding effect for me in this journey to building stuff. And it's going to relate back to how you're building your company with your brother, right? I also lost my sister when I was 12 years old to cancer. So I'm very, very aware of cancer as a whole. So you can tell me to shut up and we don't have to talk about it at all, or we can dive into it and unravel what these vulnerabilities help us create clarity in our life in order to go out and pursue things that mean the most to us.
Yeah, that's well put. It's going to be 26 years in July, July 17th. Wow. It's going to be 26 years since I was diagnosed with choriocarcinoma, which was basically a big grapefruit-sized tumor knocking my stomach and my spine out of place. So I had back pain and I wasn't eating, so I was losing weight. And the cancer spread all over my lungs, wrapped around my aorta valve. It was on all of my organs, but it didn't go into any of my organs. So that was the lucky part, right? And chemotherapy 25 years ago is not what it is today. It was a little bit rough, but you take the positives out of a lot of this stuff. And I had a wonderful support system. My mom, dad, brother Brendan, brother Tim, and great friends, Willie Dersh, Wall Street maven now, but I had a great support system, and I had it's been able to give me some perspective over life. I wake my kids up every day and I tell them it's a great day to be a Lyons, and I do mean that because not every day is guaranteed. But and I had cancer at such a great time. It was in July, right after my senior year in high school, so I missed a year. But it took me a year to go to college, but but that was fine. And it was, it just gave me such a wonderful perspective of nothing's guaranteed. Take action when it's right in front of you and just enjoy every single day. So being on this podcast, talking to your millions of listeners, this is all additive to me. This is just so much fun. And why not do real estate where I have a passion for it, helping people and stacking wins on top of each other.
Man, that was sending shivers down my spine. That was, thank you for sharing that. I could only imagine at such a ripe young age going into manhood and leaving high school, going into college, wanting to have that be the coming of age sort of, what most Americans think. And most people in the Western world go to university. At least for me, it was very coming of age. I was turning 17, going on to 18. I could only imagine at the time how it would have rocked you and your family, to experience that and the carcinoma. I'm very familiar about that strain of cancer. My mother had uterus cancer that was also a carcinoma. So very, very aware. And thank you very much for sharing. I really appreciate that, opening that vulnerability up. I echo everything you're saying. Being grateful, being present, understanding what your why is, and I think you said. Even your attitude towards cancer, you're like, I got it at a good age. Like I was like, that's something really positive to say. Like you're taking the positives out of that because it helped you set your life up to what it is today. So,
hey, things happen for a reason. And it's not always positive, and there were tough days, and it's still hard to talk about.
Sure.
But
I can imagine. Thank you.
But it's just, it's everyone goes through something, right? If it was smooth sailing, anyone could do it, right?
Life would be easy, right? Like
life would be easy, but it's not. But it's what you do with those setbacks and things in your life that happen, and what do you make out of it? And I say it was good to get it when I was 18 because my body was able to take it. It was able to take the chemo, and it was able to recover a little bit better than I am now at 43, and I'm not sure how the body would react to something different. So it was a huge part of my life, huge part of my family and friends' life, and it's something that's with me and something that I use to propel myself forward every day.
And just to round out the conversation, I assume it's non-genetic, right? It's one of those weird freak cancers that you just find out and you've got it, and then got to go deal with it.
It was the first time I won the lottery, and only time.
Yeah. Well, mate, look, thank you so much for sharing that and being vulnerable. I like to get those stories out on these podcasts. One, because it's personal to me as well. I've had it very close to my family, but also how it just reconnects you with what your why is, why you're on this journey, and also how you take risks. I think there's a little bit of like, you've been so close to death and facing these challenges early on that you as a person will have a different risk appetite. Not that it's a bad thing. People think of risk appetite as bad things, but you're going to go out and give it a crack, right? Give it a go. And I think that is so important. What I stand for, my whole motto on this show is be bold, be brave, go give life a crack. Like we're here being put on this earth to enjoy it, and not, you mentioned earlier, not just get into a job and retire at 65 and then start living life. And so you want to be there for your kids. You want to be able to enjoy your time. You want to be able to go on holidays and do whatever makes you tick. So thank you again so much for sharing that with us. At the end of every show, we like to dive into the top 5 investing tips. You don't know what those investing tips are going to be. There's 5 questions, lightning round, that I'm going to ask you. Are you ready to get into it, Greg?
Let's do it.
Mate, what is the daily habit you practice to keep on track towards your goals?
I try to work out and move my body every single day. Some days that's as little as a couple push-ups or a walk in the neighborhood, but I try to move my body every single day. It's a move it or lose it situation.
That's awesome. And I'm sure that comes from
absolutely.
your time battling cancer. So I could only imagine. And I'm sure you're eating very healthy, right, as well? Like
that's a little bit more of a roller coaster. And, that'd be a whole nother podcast. But I try to do the right thing.
Awesome. That's awesome. Question number 2 is, who's been the most influential person in your career to date?
Wow. A couple of people that I don't even know. Robert Kiyosaki for writing Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Jim Rohn just for his mindset and changing my mindset to want this multifamily journey even more. He's had an incredible effect on both my brother and myself and our mindset. The Jake and Gino community, Gino Barbaro, has been wonderful to us, and has taught us so much about the industry, and has been able to establish a network for us, which has been fantastic.
I know Jake and Gino very, very well, and they're good guys. They're really good guys at heart.
Absolutely.
So awesome. Big thanks there. There's a lot of people there that you've pulled inspiration from, but I think that's really, really important. Yeah. Question number 3 is, what is the most influential tool in your business? Now, when I say a tool, it could be a phone, a physical tool like a phone, notebook, computer, or it could be a piece of software that you can't run the business without. What is the most influential tool in your business?
I think that one of the most influential tools in our business is Tim and I's personality. It is, we're on this real estate journey to make our lives better. And we're not just telling you, what you should do. We're living the journey right alongside of our investors. We're not living in mansions or anything like that. One day, maybe, who knows? But we are living the journey right next to our investors. And we believe in it so much. We invest in all these deals that we do. Our personality, I think, helps us tell the story of not only ourselves, but why real estate syndication and putting your money to work in syndications is important.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I've ever had someone on this show after doing it for 6 years, over 300 episodes, say personality. So I think that's freaking awesome, because personality is why people invest in you, right? They trust you, they like you, they're drawn to you, they're drawn to your story, they're drawn to your personality, and that's what's going to build that ability to say, yes, I want to invest in your deals. So
now, a cell phone, having a podcast, having a website, all those things really, really help. But but everyone has that. And, why are you going to invest with certain people is, I think that's what makes a difference.
It comes down to your personal brand, right? People invest in who you are. So I love it. I could talk about that for hours on this show. I have talked about it for hours on this show. And for anyone who's listening, definitely check out the book, Key Person of Influence by Dan Priestley. It talks all about being a brand in and around yourself. So awesome stuff. Question number 4 is, in one sentence, what has been the biggest failure in your career? And what did you learn from that failure?
The biggest failure is probably not telling enough people what we've done so far. I've changed careers a couple of times, being a basketball coach, being a condo developer. I think that, with this new venture, we may come up short from raising X amount of dollars that we committed to. So there's a failure of not telling enough people what we do. But for the most part, my biggest failures have been in kind of past lives, when the condo market, when 2008 happened and the condo market went kaput, could we have seen that? No. And I think we did everything we can to kind of hold on, but it's really the life lessons of every day. So I couldn't do one big failure, because there's been so many along the way.
No, that's fine. And I love the pause there, because it makes people think about what it is that they've learned along the way. And I think I probably emulate the same issues when I first started. I remember raising my first $500,000 and thinking, this is going to be easy, and going out and hearing crickets, right?
Absolutely.
And it goes back to not investing enough time in the education piece, right? That's where I doubled down on the podcast and all that sort of stuff. So getting that message out. So I think it's really important for people listening to the show, that last piece, because you are more unknown than you think. And you need, with all the social medias out there in the world, you need to have a bigger microphone and tell more people about what you do, so that it owns the top 2 inches in their brain when they think about real estate.
Absolutely.
Last question, Greg, is where can people reach you to continue the conversation? They want to be in your sphere. Where do they go?
They should go to citysidecap.com and check out, more than anything, check out our educational resources, our blog. There's a link to our podcast, The Passive Income Brothers. And that's where we take a deep dive with a lot of guests that we have into their real estate journey and how they got started. And it really centers around taking action. Right. It's for the passive investor. It's for the operator. It's really for anyone, but it's, hey, how do I take action to get involved in real estate?
Love it, mate. Well, I want to thank you so much for jumping on today's show. I just want to reflect a few of the things that I took away from today's show. I think, thank you first and foremost for being so vulnerable in and around your story. I think that it's really what we're put on this earth to do, share these vulnerabilities with other humans so other humans can take advice and solace to know that they're not the only ones going through shit, and I can swear on this podcast because it's my podcast. But I do want to thank you from the bottom of my heart to share that with people, because we talk a lot about successes and building businesses and all that sort of stuff, but it's understanding where people come from and understanding their motivation to go out and live the day to day, be present, be with the kids, understand why you're on this journey for. Business is a big part of it. This is what we talk about on the show, but having other pillars in your life is so important. Your health, your wellness, your family. If you're into religion, fantastic. If you're into spirituality, fantastic. Whatever it is, you need other pillars, not just the business. So being well balanced across all of it, I really get that from you. And I just love what you said about your personality. You and your brother are building something around you being genuine to people and helping them get across those first couple of steps. You mentioned earlier that you don't live in a mansion. You're not focused on the next 10 years. You're focused on the right now, the next 3 or 4 steps, in the next 2 or 3 years to help move the business down the road. And I think that's so, so important. But mate, did I leave anything out?
No, I don't think so. This has been an absolute pleasure. Just allowing me to tell my story and the journey of Cityside Capital. We're going to be around for a long time, and hopefully we'll have a round 2 somewhere along the line, but this has been absolutely fantastic. Awesome, brother. Well, look, again, thank you so much for jumping on the show. Enjoy your rest of your week, and we'll catch up very, very soon. Well, there you have it. Another cracking episode jam-packed with some incredible advice from Greg. If you do want to go and check out where he is at, go to citysidecap.com. Click on the link. Go to what he's doing over there with him and his brother and his podcast. Definitely give it a rate and review on iTunes. I want to thank you all again for taking some time out of the day to continue to grow your financial IQ, because that's what we're all about here on this show. And you know what I will tell you at the end of every episode, if you like this show, the easiest way to give back is to jump onto iTunes, give the show a 5-star review. All the notes and the links from today's show will be up on my website at reedgoosens.com. And we're going to do it all again next week. So remember, be bold, be brave, and go give life a crack.